The first time I stole from Marcus Vane, he let me keep it. I was 11 years old, crouched behind the flower stall outside Crescent Street Station, and I had lifted a warm bread roll from the paper bag sitting on his bench. He was feeding pigeons and pretending not to notice me. When I finally took a bite, he turned around slowly, looked at me the way adults look at something they are trying not to feel sorry for, and said, "There's another one in the bag, if you're still hungry." I left without taking it, but I also left without giving the first one back. His name was Marcus Vane. He owned the flower stall Monday through Saturday. He was 63 years old. He wore the same green vest every day, smelled like cut stems and wet newspaper, and he called everyone Little Sparrow, whether they were 6 or 60, because, he told me later, everyone is small compared to what they carry. I did not trust him immediately. Trust is not something you hand to strangers on a street corner, but I kept passing his stall, and every time I did, he found some reason to leave food out where I could reach it without asking. That was the beginning, not of a rescue, not of a miracle, just of two people being honest about what they could offer each other without making it strange. I was 16 when I came back to Crescent Street properly. 4 years on the street teaches you a set of skills that school does not. I could read a person's mood before they opened their mouth. I could tell which cafes threw food out the back at what time. I could sleep in 3 different positions that kept one ear open. And I could estimate the value of any object within seconds of touching it, not because I stole things, but because when you have nothing, the weight of everything else becomes very precise. By then, Marcus's flower stall had expanded. He had a glass-fronted shop now, a small unit between a dry cleaner and a phone repair place. Same green vest, different location. The bread rolls were gone, replaced by a handwritten sign in the window, part-time help wanted. Fair wage, no experience required, must not lie about effort. I stood outside that window for 11 minutes. I counted. Then I went inside. Marcus looked up from the till. He squinted at me for a long moment. "You got taller," he said. "You have a door now," I said. "It stays open," he said, "if you don't like closed spaces." He hired me that same afternoon. His daughter arrived 6 weeks later. Her name was Celeste Vane. She was 26, back from 4 years studying design in Edinburgh, and she walked into the shop on a Thursday morning like a person who had been abroad so long that home had become an idea rather than a place. She had her father's eyes, that same unhurried attention, but everything else about her was sharp. Sharp coat, sharp sentences, a way of looking at a room that classified it before settling into it. She looked at me behind the counter and said, "You're new." 6 weeks, I said. "He let you arrange the window display." "Yes." She studied the window. I had used white anemones alongside dried seed pods and a strip of pale green linen. It had taken me an hour and a half. "You moved the focal point too far right," she said. "It balances with the shadows in the afternoon." She paused. "What time?" "Between 2 and 3:30. She walked to the window, looked at it from the street angle through the glass, and came back in. "It does," she said. "Balance." That was our first conversation. It lasted 40 seconds. It told me almost everything about her. Marcus Vane had built his flower business on one simple rule. He never sold a flower arrangement without asking what the occasion was. Not because he was nosy, but because, he said, a flower sent for an apology is a different flower than one sent for a birthday, and the person receiving it deserves that honesty in the petals. Customers found this strange at first. Then they came back because of it. Celeste disagreed with this approach. "It slows the sale," she told him one evening while I was closing up the back room. "People don't want to explain themselves. They want a product." Marcus said, "A flower is not a product." "Dad, a flower is already dying when you buy it," he said. "The least it deserves is to die for the right reason." Celeste went quiet, not the quiet of surrender, the quiet of someone saving an argument for later. I said nothing, but I thought about it for 3 days. She stayed. That was the surprise. I had assumed she would visit for a few weeks and go back to Edinburgh or somewhere else equally crisp and purposeful. But she stayed. She took the back office and began redesigning the shop's ordering system. She built a website. She took photographs of the arrangements, Not the showy ones, but the quiet ones, the ones Marcus made almost by accident while he was thinking about something else, and she posted them online with almost no caption. Just the image, sometimes a date. People responded to them in a way they had not responded to other flower shops' photographs. Something about the lack of explanation made them feel like they were seeing something private. Marcus said it was because the flowers were honestly themselves. Celeste said it was good lighting. I thought they were both right and neither would accept it. There is a specific awkwardness that comes with not having a proper history. When people asked me where I was from, I said a city 4 hours away, which was technically true because I had passed through it once. When they asked about my family, I said it was complicated, which is a sentence that most people find sufficient and do not push. I had a council flat bedsit by then, paid for mostly by my wages from Marcus. And I had a social worker named Diane who checked in every few months and was overworked and kind in the distracted way that overworked people are. I did not lie to Marcus, but I had not told him everything either. He had not asked. That was part of why I trusted him, but things have a way of becoming visible when you stop moving. One afternoon, a customer came in asking for a wreath. She was elderly, arranging it in advance for a funeral, her sister, she explained, who was nearly gone now, but were saying goodbye slowly, which is kinder. While I wrapped the order, she talked without stopping. She talked about her sister's habit of leaving tea to go cold, about the way she said Tuesday with an extra syllable, about a shared apartment they had lived in during their 20s that smelled of gas heating and someone else's cooking. When she left, I stood at the counter and could not move for almost a minute. Celeste came in from the back. She looked at me. She did not say, "Are you all right?" in that automatic way people use the question when they do not really want the answer. She said, "What did she say?" "She told me about her sister," I said. "Do you have a sister?" "No." "Someone like one." I thought about Diane, about Marcus, about a boy named Pete who had slept in the same shelter as me for 2 winters and then disappeared into a foster placement and never came back. "Maybe," I said. "I'm not sure what counts." Celeste was quiet for a moment. Then, "I think if you have to ask whether it counts, it probably does." I did not know what to do with that sentence, so I wrote it down on a receipt and kept it in my coat pocket until the paper fell apart. The thing about working in a flower shop is that you are present for every occasion without being part of any of them. Birthday flowers, funeral flowers, hospital flowers, first date flowers chosen by people who did not know what the other person liked yet, forgiveness flowers, which were always white because people believe white means clean, even though nothing is ever entirely clean. I became good at reading what the customer actually needed versus what they were asking for. Marcus noticed this. He started asking me to serve the more complicated customers, the ones who came in with the wrong idea about what to buy, who needed to be redirected carefully. One of those customers was a man named Edwin. He came in once a month, always on the 17th, always buying the same thing, a bunch of yellow freesias. He paid in cash. He never lingered. He never explained. For 4 months, I served him without comment, because Marcus's rule about asking the occasion only applied when the customer wanted to tell you. Forcing the question was a different thing. On the 5th month, Edwin came in and the freesias were gone. We had sold the last bunch an hour earlier, and the order had not come in. He stood at the counter looking at the empty space in the display like a man who had arrived at a party and found the door locked. I said, "We have cream ranunculus, similar weight, similar warmth in the color." He said nothing. "Or white narcissus," I said, "if it's for someone who preferred simplicity." Edwin looked at me. He was perhaps 50, with the slightly frayed quality of someone who had recently reorganized his life and was not yet used to the new layout. "She liked freesias," he said. Past tense. "I'm sorry," I said. "No, she's not gone. She just doesn't want them anymore." He looked at the ranunculus. "She says they remind her of hospital waiting rooms." "She's right," I said. "Hospitals use them because they're low maintenance. They don't smell too strongly. They survive poor conditions. She's probably tired of things that survive poorly." Edwin stared at me. "Sorry," I said. "That was too much." "No," he said slowly. "No, what would you suggest?" I showed him sweet peas. He bought them. He came back the following month on the 17th and asked specifically for me. Marcus watched all of this without comment. That was how he communicated approval, by very carefully not interfering. Celeste was less subtle. "You have a gift for it," she said one evening when we were both closing up, and Marcus had gone to his Tuesday evening chess club, which he attended primarily to have someone to argue with about unrelated topics. "For flowers," I said, "for reading what people actually need." She was reorganizing the ribbon spools. She was always reorganizing something. It's not a skill they teach. "Life teaches it," I said without thinking. She turned around. "What kind of life?" I could have deflected. I had deflected successfully for years. But there is a point at which deflection costs more than honesty, and I had been approaching that point for weeks without naming it. "A difficult one," I said, "but not a dramatic one, just thin for a long time." She waited. "I lived on the street," I said. "From 11 to 16, different places, different people, then here." Celeste set down the ribbon spool. She did not look at me with the expression I had come to recognize in people who received this information, the expression that was trying to recalibrate what category I belonged in. She said, "Does my father know?" "Not everything. He would want to." "I know," I said. "That's why I haven't told him, because once he knows, he'll want to fix it, and there is nothing to fix. I'm already fixed. I just haven't always known how to say that." Celeste was quiet for a long moment. "I wasn't here," she said finally. I frowned. "Sorry. I was in Edinburgh for 4 years. My father was here alone. He put up that sign, part-time help, no experience required, about 3 months after Mum died." She looked at the window display. "I didn't come home for the funeral. I came back afterward. I told myself it was because flights were expensive." She paused. "Flights were not expensive." The shop was very quiet. The lights outside turned the glass into a soft mirror. "He didn't tell me that," I said. "He wouldn't." She picked up the ribbon spool again. "He doesn't like to make people feel responsible for things they can't change." "That's where you get it from," I said. She looked at me. "The not asking thing," I said. "When I told you about the street, you didn't ask for a story, you just received it." Celeste's expression shifted, not dramatically, but enough. "I'm practicing," she said. "Being here, actually here, instead of just present." I understood the difference. I had spent years being present without being here. "It shows," I said. "Marcus found out about my history not because I told him, but because Diane came into the shop. She came in on a Tuesday, which was not her usual check-in day, and she asked for a small bunch of something, for someone who deserves it but won't say so. I recognized her before she recognized me. She had grown her hair out. When she saw me, she stopped. "You work here," she said. "For 8 months," I said. She looked around the shop. She looked at the window display, and the organized counter, and the handwritten price cards that Marcus made every week in his careful print. Her face did something complicated. "You look settled," she said, which coming from Diane meant more than the words themselves. "I am," I said. "I think." Marcus came out of the back. I introduced them. I watched his face while Diane explained who she was, social worker, former, and I saw the moment he understood the full shape of what he had hired without asking for an explanation. He did not show surprise. He showed something closer to relief, which was strange until I understood. He had not asked because he had already guessed, and he had hired me anyway, and now he simply had confirmation that his instinct had been correct. After Diane left, Marcus stood at the counter and said, "You should have told me." "I know. Not so I could do anything differently," he said. "Just so you didn't have to carry it as a secret. I wasn't sure it was your business." "It isn't," he said. "But things that aren't my business can still be something I care about." I looked at the flowers in the display case. 14 different types, each in its separate water tube, each with a paper label Marcus had written in the morning. "I didn't know how to say it without making it a big thing," I said. "And I didn't want it to be a big thing." Marcus was quiet. "It doesn't have to be," he said. "Some things are just true, they don't need to be performed." I nodded. Something in my chest loosened. Not dramatically, just quietly, the way a window opens that has been closed for a long time. Celeste's design work began changing the shop in ways that were very slow and then suddenly obvious. She added 2 small chairs near the entrance, with a low table between them. Just chairs. No sign explaining they were there. Customers started sitting down while they thought about what they wanted. Conversations lengthened. Marcus sold more expensive arrangements because people were calmer when they chose. She changed the lighting in the window to shift gradually through the afternoon, so the display looked different at 10 in the morning than at 4 in the evening. She did not announce any of this. She just did it and observed whether it worked and adjusted if it didn't. I watched her work the same way I had learned to read flowers, slowly, without pressure, letting the truth of the thing surface at its own pace. One evening, about a week after Diane's visit, Celeste sat in one of the new chairs and said, "What do you want to do with your life? Not the shop. What do you want?" I sat in the other chair. "I don't know how to want things at a large scale," I said. "I've mostly wanted things that fit in a pocket." "Like what?" "Food, warmth, a door that stays in the same place." I paused. "Someone who notices when I'm not there." "Marcus notices," she said. "I know." "I notice," she said, more quietly. Looking at the dried stems she had been sorting rather than at me. I did not know what to do with that either, but I did not put it in my pocket. I held it in my hands for a moment and decided it was something to look at properly, later in good light. "I think I want this," I said eventually. "Something like this. Being the person who knows what flowers to choose for every occasion, for other people." I looked at the window. I never had occasions before, so I don't know, a lot of attention for other people's. Celeste smiled. Not the professional one she used with suppliers and website clients. The real one, which was slower and involved her eyes. "That's a good reason," she said. "It's not a career plan." "It's better than a career plan." September 22nd. I know the date because Marcus wrote it on the paper that held the morning's flower order, which he did for every significant date. His wife's birthday, the anniversary of the shop, the date the city floods had closed them for a week 8 years earlier. He treated dates like flowers. He believed in naming them, honoring them, letting them mean something. He was standing at the back counter when I arrived. He had already made coffee. He had left a cup beside the kettle. He always made a cup for whoever came in after him, because, he said, a warm cup means someone expected you. Celeste came in 15 minutes later. Marcus brought out a small cake. "Your mother would have been 62 today," he said to Celeste, and then he looked at me. "And it is almost exactly 1 year since you started." Celeste looked at the cake. "Did you make this?" "The bakery around the corner made it. I supervised." "Did you frighten them?" "They were nervous when they saw the green vest." We sat in the 2 chairs and the stool by the till, and we ate cake in the flower shop in the early morning before customers came, with the door open because it was mild. And the light at that hour made everything in the window look like it was already arranged for a photograph. Celeste said, "Mum used to say that a good flower shop should feel like a secret the whole street is in on." Marcus nodded. "She used to steal my rolls of ribbon to tie letters with, claimed they were left over from the shop." "Were they?" "Absolutely not. I listened to them talk about her, not in the heavy way people talk about the dead, pressing each detail into a monument, but lightly, the way you carry something you are used to the weight of. It was not my story to add to, but it was mine to hear. That, I had learned, was its own kind of belonging." Marcus refilled the cups. He set one in front of me and one in front of Celeste. I looked at my cup, then I looked at him. "I never told you why I stopped," he said. "At Crescent Street, the first time." I waited. "You reminded me of someone," he said. "Specifically, the way you held the bread roll with both hands, as if it might be taken back." He looked at his own cup. "My daughter, not Celeste, another daughter, a long time ago, she used to do the same thing with her toys. She grew up without much, in a different life I lived before this one. And she grew into someone who held everything carefully." He paused. "I lost touch with her when she was 13. A series of mistakes, none of them single large ones, just accumulation." The shop was very quiet. "Did you find her?" I asked. "She found me 6 years ago. She came into the original stall just like you, though she was 37 years old by then, and came to ask me a question, not take a bread roll." "What question?" Marcus looked at the window display. "She asked whether I would come to her daughter's birthday party." He smiled. It took me a moment to understand that she was asking whether I wanted to be in her life, in her daughter's life. And she had chosen the most ordinary possible way to say it, a child's birthday party, because she was protecting herself from the size of the real question. I said nothing. I said yes, Marcus said. I have been saying yes in small ways since then. Celeste reached across and touched his hand. She had heard this story before. She held it differently now. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Marcus looked at me. In 8 months, I had learned that his unhurried attention was not passive. It was careful. There was a difference. Because you came through my door holding everything carefully, he said. And I think you are beginning to hold some things less tightly. And I did not want you to do that without knowing that I have noticed. The pendant I wore, a small brass bird Marcus had given me at 3 months. A shop tradition, he called it. Though Celeste later told me he made it up for me specifically, shifted at my throat. I had not taken it off. Celeste said, "He's trying to say he's proud of you, and he doesn't know how to say it without it becoming an announcement." "It is not an announcement," Marcus said. "It is slightly an announcement. I am privately proud. Publicly announcing your private pride." I laughed. It came out quickly before I could decide whether it was appropriate. Marcus smiled at his cup. Celeste caught my eye and said nothing, which was its own kind of sentence. Edwin came in later that morning. The 17th of the month was still 3 days away, but he came in early. He asked for sweet peas again. And then he said, "She wants to come in herself next time. She wants to choose them." "That's good," I said. "She says she'd like to meet the person who figured out the Fresias thing." He paused. Her word was figured. I just said what I saw. "That's what she said that was worth meeting," he said. I wrapped the sweet peas. Edwin paid and put on his coat. At the door he turned. "You know that thing you said about surviving poor conditions?" "I shouldn't have." "She framed it," he said. "She put it on the wall. She says it explains the last 3 years better than anything the therapist said." He left. Celeste was behind me. She had heard. She did not say anything immediately. Then, "What you just did." "I know," I said. "That's not nothing." "I know," I said again. At the end of the day, I locked up while Celeste finished the last of the web orders in the back. Marcus had already gone. He left early on the 22nd every year. He had explained to sit somewhere quiet for an hour. He had done it every year since his first daughter came back. He used the hour to be grateful without needing to perform it for anyone. I put the last water tube in the back cooler and switched off the display lights. The window went dim, and for a moment I could see my reflection in it, someone in a green apron, closing up a flower shop, looking like a person who was exactly where they should be. That was a new feeling, not comfortable in the way of having settled, comfortable in the way of not needing to look for the exit. Celeste came out of the back with her coat. "I was thinking," she said, "about what you said. About wanting to know the flowers for every occasion." "Yes, there are courses, floristry design. I could find you the names." "I don't have the money yet. There are loans that are not humiliating to take." I looked at her. "How do you know which ones are humiliating?" "I took 3, she said. "Edinburgh wasn't cheap. I can show you which ones felt like transactions and which ones felt like someone believed in you." She said it practically, the way she said most things. But underneath the practicality was something else, and we were both aware of it, and neither of us rushed it, which was correct. "Okay," I said. "Okay. Show me." She nodded. She went to hold the door open for me, the habit Marcus had passed down without explaining it. I stepped out. She followed. The door stayed unlocked. Marcus always left it unlocked after close, in case anyone needed somewhere dry to stand. Nobody had ever abused it. People, he said, mostly just needed to know the option existed. We walked toward the bus stop. "Celeste," I said. "Thank you." She looked ahead. "I haven't done anything yet." "I know," I said. "That's why." She thought about that for a moment. Then she nodded, once the way she nodded when something landed correctly. The street was ordinary, evening traffic, someone's music from an open window above. The smell of rain that had not arrived yet but would. I was 16 when I